You say the mayor actually a class act, Hancock trying to scapegoat him. Who do you believe? You are putting reasonableness of the belief in the local mayor or Mr. Hancock into issue. That is rather surprising, is it not?
Here's Mark Sedwell, former Cabinet Secretary and head of the Civil Service at the Covid Enquiry, admitting that many people on the Covid task force generally thought that Matt Hancock was a load of rubbish.
Yes, but one was also a senior local government figure. And of course, all of these, if you're the Cabinet Secretary, are important.
The big problem is Hancock, but I mostly blame Hancock, déjà vu, that was how we spent the early spring. And then Mr. Case says at 22:46, I've only just realised that we have no senior DHSC officials anywhere near this. Where was Matt's Perm Sec or lead DG? We're engaging with the Public Health England, the clinicians, etc., but there is no one around driving the policy side of operational lockdown on Matt's behalf. Weird absence. And you say, welcome to the last 6 months. So 2 points, please. Firstly, the process by which Mr. Hancock's truthfulness or candour or lack of candour or general approach, however one describes it, was not an issue that was confined to perhaps one or two individuals, or notably Mr. Cummings. There was a general issue, a general problem surrounding Mr. Hancock. Is that a fair summary?
Yes, and you heard from Helen McNamara on that last week.
Now, here's just one reason why Mark Sedwell might have thought that Matt Hancock was a load of rubbish.
Did anybody think, as far as you're able to tell, think to stop and say, well, if China has lost control, to what extent can we be assured that it is only still a realistic possibility that the majority of cases will be confined to it? There seems to be very little debate about this assumption.
This final sentence that you've brought up here is my recollection of what I was being advised at the time and what I thought at the time. So when I was struggling to answer the question of when I was told that the conclusion from Sage, this is closer to what I remember understanding at the time.
Right.
Yeah.
On the 18th,
and you have to remember, in terms of process, apologies, Sage outcomes were reported to me by Professor Whitty.
did you not read the minutes?
Later in the pandemic, I took the minutes directly, but at this early stage, I was given a readout from Professor Whitty.
Did anybody know that the Secretary of State for Health was not reading the minutes day in, day out from the sole Scientific Advisory Committee on Emergencies?
I don't know.
The evidence before this inquiry, Mr. Hancock, is that the minutes were deliberately consensus-driven and short. They were quite short.
Yeah.
To enable them to be read by Cabinet Office, DHSC, Civil Contingency Secretariat, Number 10, and so on. But they weren't read by you.
They certainly were when they were presented to me, and they were they came up and they were reported to me by the CMO, and this is my understanding of the situation at the time.
Can I press you, please, to help us with when you first regularly started being presented with and reading statements?
I asked for them at some point in the middle of, at some point in February, to be regularly put in my box.
Regardless of their public prominence, Mr. Hancock, the position is that SAGE was the sole body providing science on the characteristics of the virus, what it amounted to, what the threat was, what in theory could be done, and the minutes from that body, which were being produced on a tri-weekly basis, were not, you say, being put before the Secretary of State responsible for public health.
Not in the first instance until I asked for them, but also the premise of your question is not correct. They were not the sole and only body. They had subcommittees like SPIAM, there was NERVTAG, which reported formally into the department, and of course there was a much wider body of publicly debated scientific advice. So SAGE was an important body, but I think that it would be wrong to fetishize the existence of and the role of SAGE.
Was there another scientific body concerned with emergencies for the United Kingdom government?
Yes, NervTag, for instance, had a
No,
significant
NervTag was a
responsibility.
DHSC subcommittee which reported on new and emerging viral threats, an
Yes.
advisory group reporting to DHSC. What other scientific emergency body provided advice to the United Kingdom government?
As I said, NervTag did to me through JVT, he was my rapporteur on NervTag, and then SAGE, of course, had a number of subcommittees.
Right.
Click here for more COVID Enquiry.